This is Angel Bueno from One Soul. I've been meditating on how to be a bit more like Jesus this week, and now sharing my thoughts. I hope I can help one more soul to be a little bit more like him. So as you can see, we're starting a new stage here. I changed the intro a little bit. So I thought we've been through a lot of our faith and how to be more practical in our faith and how to be closer to Jesus. And then in prayer for the last few months, I've been seeing that I need to be more like Jesus in order to build my relationship with him. He is my model, and we've mentioned that many times here in the podcast. I need to be more like him. And as well, we've said many times that Jesus was perfect in virtue. And in order to be more like him, we need to be virtuous. So that's why I wanted to talk about the different virtues that we need to exercise in order to get to heaven. The first three that we'll be talking about is faith, charity, and hope. So the theological virtues, the ones that we need to exercise in order to get to heaven, as well as all the others as well, right? But so every week I want to talk about, I want to meditate myself about one virtue, and then share the thoughts or the things that I see in prayer that our Lord wants me to share in this podcast. And then the idea I've got so far is to move on into cardinal virtues and then on into other different virtues. As well, in this, I like to call it second season, even though we'll keep the number of the same way of numbering the episodes. So this is episode 19, even though it's called season 2, since we're changing a bit of the way we're doing the podcasts. So I'll be talking or sharing thoughts on one virtue every week. I'll try to be as practical as possible and basically on how I am going to be applying that virtue in my life, and sharing maybe different ways in which you can as well exercise that virtue during that week or those 2 weeks, depending. As well, I'd like to share, I'm starting a course for the next 2 years, and that is gonna keep my week very busy, because I'm not dropping anything else. I'm just taking a little bit more on. Also, I'd like to share that my wife and I are expecting number 4. We don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but yeah, so around May this year, or June, early June, late May, we'll have it, and we'll have another member in our family. So I would love to ask you for prayers for my wife, for the delivery, for the baby, to be very healthy and be another apostle for our Lord when he or she comes. So anyway, I'm talking a little bit more in this intro, so let's get to topic. So as I said, I want to start with the theological virtues. The first one is faith. So faith in the Gospels, and not just in the Gospel, in the Old Testament, is put as that we need the faith in order to get to heaven. So if we don't have the faith in this life that we going through on earth, we won't be able to get to our Lord in heaven. And it's true, it's not just that, but this is step number 1. In many times, we can read that faith is necessary for salvation. It's true, I like to start as well with this. Faith is not everything. St. James, and I've mentioned this many times, St. James says, faith without actions is dead. So it's very important, and this is the main link that I want to talk about today. The fact that our faith, we need to exercise it. So of course it's important and it's a gift. I'll break all this down in a second, but it's given to us by God. But then we need to put it in practice. If we just say, I believe in God, I've been saved, that's a very dangerous thought, because that is like, okay, I come home, I know I have a family, I know I have a wife, I know I'm going to have dinner, but if I don't move a muscle, I'll get 2 things. One, either not food for dinner? Or second, an argument with my wife for not being helpful, for just sitting on the couch and not doing anything. So I don't want to be judged when I get to my personal judgment. And our Lord said, yeah, I gave you the faith, but you did nothing with it. Just remember the parable of the talents. So if you, the man that received 10, then got another 10, did something with those talents. So the same the man with 5. And then the third person that had only 1 was said, I've got it. I'm going to give it back the same way it is. He buried it. No worries. All chilled. But what happened? Send this man to hell. So you know I would be demanding of you. So well, we cannot just say we've got the faith and rest. We need to put it in practice, because our Lord is going to judge us on how well we've used this talent that He's given us of His faith, of being able to believe in Him, of being able to believe in all the dogmas that He's given us through the church, to believe in His church as the way in heaven, to the way on earth to get to heaven, to believe in His mother that brought Him to earth, to believe in His love, in His salvation, in heaven, in hell, in purgatory. All these beautiful things that He's revealed to us. We need to be thankful for all these things. And in the case of you that are listening, if you don't have the faith, don't worry, it's a gift. So I'm nobody to judge anybody, because it is a gift from God. But if you don't have the faith, tell our Lord, I want to believe. Even myself, I struggle to believe many times in many different things of my faith. So, but I like to say something that Saint Josemaria used to say when he was on earth. Because even him, somebody with a massive faith, he used to struggle here and there with his faith. But he used to say, I believe, Lord, but help my unbelief. And this is something, it's a little aspiration that we could repeat many times during our day. I believe, Lord, but help my unbelief. Because I'm human. I'm not perfect. I cannot have the faith of Jesus. This is something that's impossible. Jesus didn't need faith. He was God Himself. So with the same here, this is not a virtue to imitate Jesus, even though He knew so well. He doesn't need faith, so that's why He could operate miracles. Remember what He said. If you have faith as a little mustard seed, you'll tell that mountain to move, and it will move. So imagine how little is our faith. I personally have experienced great faith in people around me. People that said, I will pray for you and this will happen. And funny enough, it did happen. Of course, with important things. If I tell our Lord with all the faith in the world, Lord, I'm going to win the lottery. Well, He's going to say, man, you don't need that. Because you need to be poor in spirit and poor with the things. Of course, somebody will win it. But you and I, we don't need that. Our faith is greater than that. Our faith is greater than material things. I'm going to go back a little bit to the actual definition of faith. There is many different definitions of faith, but there is one that I heard not long ago doing a course that I really, really liked. Faith is the assent of the mind, impelled by will, inspired by divine grace, to truths revealed by God, on the authority of God revealing. So I'm going to break this up a little bit. So first, it's an assent of the mind. We need to say yes to it. Of course, it doesn't come from us, but we need to say yes. And this yes is impelled by the will, which is we need to intentionally want to say yes. It's inspired by divine will. It's a gift. God needs to give you the faith. And you need to say yes willingly. And then this faith is to the truths revealed by God. It's not to some of them, or it's to every single thing that God has said. So, for example, many people I've heard that say, I believe in God, of course, above all things, but I don't believe in his church. But man, your faith is incomplete. You don't really have faith, because the church is a faith revealed by Jesus Christ. I believe in God, but I can't believe in the purity of Our Lady or the Immaculate Conception of Our Lady. Well, I'm sorry, but your faith is incomplete. You don't have real faith. So to have faith is to have faith in all the truths revealed by God. It's true. Faith sometimes comes as a gradual gift, but we need to still tell our Lord. And I still tell him, Lord, help me believe more and better. I do encourage you to say the same. Join to that aspiration I mentioned before. I believe, Lord, help my unbelief. Lord, I want to believe more and better. Because remember, we're human. Our faith is not perfect. And it won't be perfect until we get to heaven. So we need to exercise this faith all the time. And then to finish just that definition on the authority of God revealing. So the only way of faith to be true is that is God the one that reveals. And funny enough, the only faith in the world that is revealed by the authority of God is the one of Christianity. Is the only one in which God made himself heard over centuries to the point of being him himself, the one that came to the world and told you, this is truth. I'm the truth and the life. And that is Jesus Christ. So it is Christianity that holds the truth, the whole truth. Of course, faith is a virtue that we exercise all the time, humanly and supernaturally, if you've been gifted with it. But humanly, I don't need to tell you that the sun hits the earth and that the sun is right now in Spain, because it's night time in Australia, so the sun is in Spain right now. So I didn't need to see that in order to believe it. Somebody's told me and I've believed it. I didn't need to experience that going to a dodgy neighborhood in Seville when I was growing up was a bad idea. My parents told me, I believed them. Or there is so many times every day that we exercise our faith in many, many different actions. I don't need to taste rat poison to know that it's going to be bad for me. It says it on the box, and I exercise my faith that way. So faith is something that everybody has. Different is how they exercise it. So supernatural faith works the same way, but it needs that first step of being given by God. And again, God gives the faith through many different ways. So in my case, I grew up with it. At some point, I challenged it. There were many times that even though I believed in God, I didn't believe, I didn't exercise that faith. And I didn't exercise that faith and put it in practice in all the areas of my life. So really, I wasn't believing properly. Because remember how we started this podcast, unless you exercise that faith in every single area of your life, you're not really believing. So if I'm saying I believe in God, I love him so much, I go to mass, I go to my parish to help, but then I live with my girlfriend. Well, really, you don't really believe. Because if you believed, you would know that you're going to be condemned with the fires of hell. I'm not the one saying this. This is our Lord Jesus Christ. So, in every and that was me for a long time, right? So, at some point I challenged it, even though the faith came from the education of my parents and the people that my parents used to support the education. But then at some point I challenged it. I stepped away from the faith for a little bit, but then our Lord got me back into it. And I took it with all my heart, with all my body, with all my mind. I willingly said yes to our Lord and this time for life. There is no way that faith is going to be challenged now. It's true, many times I fail, but I need to get back up. So many times I need to tell our Lord, Lord, I believe in you, but you need to help me because I'm struggling to believe in this. So because we have a lot of mysteries we need to believe in. So we can move mountains. Of course, not literal mountains. There is no point in moving a mountain. But although I've been to Peru, they should move some of those mountains. So the capital, Lima, is not just a dome of clouds constantly, right? In some places, they should move a couple mountains. But again, really, in most of our countries or in most of our cities, moving mountains is no point for them. But we can really achieve anything if we believe that our Lord can do it. You see, like how the intercession of the saints works, you know? For example, there is a blessed, the last blessed that I'm aware that happened, her name is Blessed Guadalupe. So she was a physics teacher in Spain. He was very apostolic, beautiful prayer soul, a soul of prayer. And so she died with the fame of holiness. So anyway, eventually a man had a tumor in his face. And he said, please, Guadalupe, help me out. I don't want to start going to doctors and all that again. Help me out, please. So he put faith there and asked the same for her intercession. So the morning after, he woke up without the tumor. And that's the miracle that made this lady a blessed in the Catholic Church. So, for example, now there is a friend of mine that needs to sell his house in order to buy another house. And we'll put a lot of prayers. And right now, I've put the intention on St. Joseph's hands. And we've been saying a novena for him. And I think on day 9 of that novena, now St. Joseph is going to grant him that somebody's going to buy his house. So he can look for another one that will suit his family situation better. So at the end of the day, these are not mountains, but these are things that we are moving little by little. Some of them physical, some of them spiritual. So we all know of the conversion of somebody that has to struggle with the faith, and after prayers and prayers, that person has gone back to the faith. So it is a miracle. It was a mountain, the fact that Saint Monica was able to pray for years and years for Saint Augustine. And then he became one of the fathers of the church. So that was a massive mountain that was moved there. And it was all by the faith of a mother. So if you really believe, as I said before, all your actions will prove that faith that you want to exercise. And that faith will definitely move mountains, but not literal mountains. The mountains of souls, the mountains of bodies. Because as we said, if that faith has no actions, you're not going to move anything. If something, your faith will be dead. So faith in the Gospels, just remember how the faith of the apostles. And still just remember, Saint Peter was the one that said, Jesus, you're Christ, the Son of the living God. And he said, well, you know that because it's been revealed to you. That is a beautiful act of faith. And still Peter was the one that denied him during the Passion. So this is not about being perfect. It's about exercising virtue. By telling our Lord, Lord, I believe. I'm sorry I didn't believe in you with this action. I didn't represent this faith that I have in you in this action. Because if we don't look after our faith, we will lose it. And then it will be a lot harder to get it back. It is a gift that has been given to us. So we need to look after it. Because if we lose it, just imagine if my wife gave me a watch when we got engaged, right? So imagine if I lost it. You said, well, you didn't really care about that sign, that little symbol that I gave you of my commitment to you. I wouldn't be happy as either if my wife lost her wedding ring or her or the engagement ring, right? So we need to look after our faith. Going back to the gospel, the faith of the paralytic. So I've heard different versions of this story. One could be the faith of the friends that they said, no matter what, we're going to get you to Jesus, to the point that they made a hole in the roof. Or it could have been the faith of the paralytic, that he said, hey boys, don't worry, just get me up there on the roof, make a hole and get me down. But I know Jesus can heal me. That is faith. The faith of the blind man. He says, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And people were telling him to shut up. But he kept going until he said, hey man, he's calling you. Go for it. So this is the faith we need to aspire to. This is the faith that we actually have. But the more we keep asking to have more of it, the stronger it will be represented in our life. So I want to finish now just saying one more time, Jesus, thank you for this gift of your faith. I am grateful for it. I'm very sorry that many times I don't reflect it with my actions, but I appreciate it. I tell you one more time, Lord, I believe in you. I believe in all the things that you have revealed to me. But please help my unbelief. Help my human side that sometimes it's not spiritual at all. Jesus, I love you and I want to believe more in you. Help me to believe more and better. This is Angel Bueno from One Soul. It's been great talking to you today to start this new journey of our relationship with God. And I look forward to seeing you next week.